out. I know that I'm blessed. There's a few L's and millions, so turn that loss to a chance.
Hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm super excited that you're here.
Me too.
For those of you that don't know Lara Svedin, I had the pleasure of meeting her, about a year ago now?
Yeah.
Probably. And, I think in this industry, especially, I've been doing this for, 20 plus years. You meet a lot of people that are in real estate, a lot of people in lending and title. And I think that there is something to be said about genuine chemistry, right? And connection. And I always felt that with you from the beginning. And, there are a lot of amazing people in the business. And then there are people that are really difficult to work with. And I'm so glad that you're not one of them. But I will say that you're somebody that I see as being extremely confident, very clear on what you want. You know your worth and value. And I think that is something I really admire. And every transaction that I've done with you has been fantastic. And you know how to carry your own weight, and you're fantastic at negotiating. So you're a great agent. And so you're more than that. You're also a mother, you're a wife, you're a business owner, and I'm just happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So tell it for those that don't know who you are, just tell us who Lara Svedin is and a little bit about, how you came here to be in real estate.
Yeah. So it's kind of it's always ups and downs. It was kind of a roller coaster, but I'm from Durango, Colorado. I feel like that's something I always have to point out to people. Mm-hmm. I'm a small town girl. I love it through and through. I'm going to die in the Rocky Mountains.
Is it true that in Durango there's an energy field or something?
They call us the Durangotangs.
Really? Did I tell? Is that true?
Yeah.
Did I tell you about my experience in Durango?
No.
So this was this yoga instructor chick I was dating years ago, and she's like, "We got to go to Durango." I'm like, "Okay." So we take this road trip. And I get out of the car. We park downtown Durango near the Strater Hotel.
Strater, yeah.
Yep. So we're kind of parked there, getting out to get some food and stretch. And I literally almost fell over. And she's like, "Oh yeah, there's an energy field here in Durango." And I'm looking back. I'm like, I don't know if she was just some hippie chick that thought that about every place, or if there's a legit. But then I feel like other people in Durango said the same thing.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know.
Never heard of that.
Really? But you grew up there.
I did.
Yeah, maybe you were just that.
Really funny.
You became energy.
Yes.
That's why.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I need to go back there.
Yeah.
I'm messed up. I'm out of my energy field.
Okay, so continue.
Yeah, and then when I graduated from Durango High School, I went to CU Boulder, and I got a degree in English. Graduated from there in 2010. Moved to Denver and did a few different things, but I worked at Nordstrom. That's around when I met my husband. We met each other through mutual friends who ended up selling James Hardie siding to his company. And then, we've been together for 14 years. But after Nordstrom, I got into outside sales inside sales actually first for a company called Norandex for 4 years. They're now ABC Supply. And then I worked for ProBuild, which is now Builder's First Source. And I worked for them for another 8.5 years. And then when I had my second child, my son Cannon, I decided to take a step back. So I was with him for about 8 months. Then he went to daycare because that's the hardest job ever.
How did you get into were you doing sales or?
Yeah, just floor sales. Yeah, I was in TBD. Yeah, which is women's jeans.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and then no, it's a division. Yeah.
Shows how much I know about
Yeah.
jeans. I think TBD.
Yeah. TBD. Yeah.
I spent my summers there.
Yeah.
So were you always attracted to sales, or did a friend get you into that job? What is it that made you think, oh, Nordstrom's might be a good opportunity?
I mean, yeah, I had a friend that worked there. She got me the job, and I was bartending in college. And also serving at a place called BJ's Brewery, which used to be on Pearl Street in Boulder. So that's when it was the best.
Okay.
And then I don't know.
Thick crust pizza.
That's the thick crust pizza.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
They have
But
like Chicago style.
I think a lot of people that have been in retail know how powerful that can be and how much you can learn and what a door opener it can be. But I think there's also a lot of other people that they think retail and they go, oh my God, that I would never want to do that, you know?
Yeah.
But I have met so many, I mean, sincerely, like super successful business people where they all have the same, how did you get started? They're like, oh, I worked at Nordstrom's. Oh, I worked at Neiman Marcus, right? So do they have like a good training program or?
Yeah, I would say that. And also, like, it's a commission based. So, like, they call it redlining there, where you make like nothing. So, if you're redlining for more than 2 months, like, basically you're going to quit or you're going to get fired because you're making no money. So, you really learn how to grind and, get people to buy stuff.
Well, and I think there's a lot of people watching this show that are entrepreneurial, a lot of sales professionals, but then there's also people that are like, I want to be that person, right? Or I want to make more money. I know that going into sales is maybe an option or an opportunity to make more money. But I think that sometimes there's a roadblock for especially people that have worked a W-2 job, they're getting a paycheck, they're hourly or salary. And the thought process, from a lot of people in that position is that, well, gosh, I'm used to making X, but if I go work that job at Nordstrom, now it's commission and I can't do that. It's too risky because I don't know what I'm going to make. And I would argue to say that, okay, that's one way of looking at it. But the other way is if you're not making money, like you probably shouldn't be working there anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
like,
100%.
And I've always thought that unless you're the one sitting in on the boardroom making decisions, you have the riskiest job of all if you're getting a paycheck because you're not making any high level decisions, right? And like if anything changes with the direction of that company, you might be the first to go.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
So for me, I've always thought it was more risky to have a traditional job, but I can understand and appreciate the mindset. But what was that like for you? Because bartending, you're pretty much guaranteed, like even though you're making a bunch of money on tips, you're kind of guaranteed you're going to make some money, right? As long as that business has traffic. But when you go into Nordstrom's, now it's really like you kind of eat what you kill and you got to sharpen your saw and get good at sales, right? What was that experience like?
It was really good. I mean, I guess I should step back a little bit. I learned probably more about sales. I went door to door and sold paper.
Dude, you're full of surprise.
Yeah, for basically staples. It was called Quill, and I would just walk into small businesses with like this giant thing that looked like a catalog, like a phone book. And I would sit down and just sell stuff to these businesses.
How long did you
write
do
up
that
a
for?
quote. I only did it for 2 months, but it was brutal.
Why did you leave, or what happened after 2 months?
I mean, it was definitely a pyramid scheme. It was totally a scheme.
Okay.
So, I mean, I made okay money, but yeah.
What is it that you feel like you learned in that 2 months? Because that's not for the faint of heart. Like, you gotta have thick skin. Right?
Yeah, self-confidence for sure. I mean, you walk in every door, everyone is saying no. Yeah. Like basically I learned that it takes, 100 no's to get one yes. So, and you just have to keep going.
What was the conversation you were having with yourself when you were going door to door and getting told no that many times? Like, how did you talk yourself into going to the next door?
I had a lot of help from my parents. I talked to my mom a lot. Yeah, exactly. Okay. But also, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I just always knew that I had to sell a certain amount in one day to be able to go home. Basically. So it was like, I have to just keep going because this is my goal for the day.
Do you feel like that's just who you've always been? Or is that something like your parents encouraged you, hey, go do this door-to-door thing because it's going to teach you, self-confidence. It's going to teach you how to handle rejection. It's going to teach you how to sell and be better with people. Yeah. Or was it just natural for you?
I think it was natural for me. Okay. I think my parents thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
when I took that job. But they always had my back no matter what I was doing. So that was really nice.
But that's interesting because, and you may not have even felt it at the time, right? Because you're you're like in it, going door to door, experiencing the rejection and some sales, right?
Yeah.
When you got a sale, did that give you like a little boost of energy or a
Oh,
high?
for
Was that
sure.
like, I want more of that?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you carry some of those lessons into your job at Nordstrom?
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I mean, sure, I learned a lot at Nordstrom, but I was just happy to be there.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
As
kind
long
of
as I
have
don't
to
have to
go
go door to
door
door.
anymore.
Yeah.
I was like, this is luxury. I just get
Mm-hmm.
to sell jeans. So
Mm-hmm.
it was fairly easy,
Hmm.
I would have to say.
Other than the obvious, right? Like not having to go door to door, when you break down the two roles at their essence, they're both sales roles, right? Um, what do you like? What was it with Nordstrom that sort of elevated your game that was different than the door knocking?
Um, let's see. At Nordstrom, I mean, they have more of kind of like a business model, I would say. You also have a team, which I
Okay.
really liked. You know, we all worked together. We all got really, really close and kind of motivated each other that way. It was just more fun to be on the floor there. So I feel like that's what just made it simpler, maybe. I was always by myself when I was doing door-to-door sales, so that was also pretty brutal because it's like
Really?
so
By
much
yourself?
self-motivation. Yeah, I was
Gosh.
completely by myself.
And that's almost like, I mean, nowadays it's like, is that even safe, right?
No,
It's
it
unfortunate,
should be
but
illegal.
yeah, right. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's super interesting, right? Because door to door is, in my opinion, like the real old school way of doing sales. It's about as old school as you get, and then you fast forward. Here we are, decade or 20 years later, and all of a sudden now there's this whole personal brand and content play where it's just a different way of building trust.
Yeah.
So you were at Nordstrom. You said your parents really encouraged you and kind of helped you through that period of time. What was it like growing up with them, and what did they do for a living?
So my dad was a custom home builder down in Durango. So that was great. I mean, I feel like our family was always pretty well known, and it's a small town.
Like true custom?
True custom, like $3+ million homes.
Wow.
So, and then he actually ended up building multifamily up at Purgatory, which is now Durango Mountain Resort, which I think now is Purgatory again.
Okay.
They go back and forth all the
comes
time.
back in style if you wait long enough,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So he ended up doing that, and then so, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom my whole life, but she ran on a bunch of, she was PTA, and she was always, doing nonprofits and all that down there, which was great.
So like growing up with a father who was an entrepreneur, a business owner, and not just that, but also like dealing with wealthy people or people that had money. Looking back at it now, was there any part of that sort of permeated your subconscious that you think has led you to become the way you are today with, we talk about standards and expectations, right? You only are going to get whatever your standard is, and I would just imagine being exposed to that where you're around these types of people, you're in these multi-million-dollar homes, that has to rub off some way. And I'm wondering if it did for you and what that was like, or looking back, how you feel about that. And then are there any lessons from that you're now trying to teach your kids?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like I was always around these people and extremely comfortable with them. I never was intimidated by them. I just always, I don't know, I realized at a young age that everyone's just as messed up as everybody else. Doesn't really matter how much money you have or really what you're doing.
Sometimes the more money, the worse.
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So just seeing the ins and outs of all of that, my dad kind of, anything that I wanted to do or see, he was open to it. I was in his office all the time. I was on his projects all the time. My first job was like sweeping the sawdust out of one of his homes. So just being around it all of the time was great. And his energy was, infectious.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you feel like being around that, there were, like, was he somebody that was, because being a home builder, I feel like that's got to be a really difficult, like mentally challenging, especially with ups and downs in the real estate market, and a lot of times you're planning a project, ordering materials, and then by the time you're 6 months into the build, the market could be totally different.
Totally.
Right. And so then that's kind of what's happening right now, right? You've got a lot of builders that started projects a year ago. Now they're just wrapping up with rates in the, sevens and eights.
Right.
And so it makes it more difficult to sell. And I think, I just imagine that's got to be super difficult. And do you remember any moments like that with him and how he got through that?
Yeah. Yeah, he it was actually 2006, but he had two investors that were on his multifamily project, and everything kind of started to tank. One of them was in Florida, and he had other projects going. So yeah, we pretty much lost everything in 2007, which was right before the market tanked. So it was like everything just crashed on top of our heads, sold our house, the whole 9 yards. So.
You had shared some of this story with me
Yeah.
At lunch, but since they haven't heard it, you had mentioned something about how he kept his word to some of these investors. And I remember when I first heard that, I thought, that is remarkable. Like, and what an amazing person that you had to look up to. Do you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, he basically pretty much till the day he died was trying to be loyal to these people and give them everything that he could back. He didn't really, they took him to court, but he didn't fight him that hard. He just, wanted to do what was right. And he always lived that way. He wasn't gonna lie. He wasn't gonna try and weasel his way out of it. He, in my opinion, he didn't do anything wrong. I think that if you're an investor, you take a risk. But he still tried to do the right thing and get them everything that he could back.
Do you know where that comes from for him? Like, was he a man of faith, or just somehow grew up with this non-negotiable that I'm going to have the highest level of integrity?
Yeah, I'm not 100%. I mean, I know in the end he believed in God as like a higher energy, like God is love. He said that all the time. And then he read a lot, extremely well read. Yeah. So he read all religions. Yeah, but Buddhist, I would say, is probably what resonated with him the most. He loved to meditate. And then like doing those deep breathing sessions and all that. I mean, there was a period where we were like delayed at an airport and he started doing yoga. that's like amazing. Meditating in the middle of the airport. My mom's like, oh my God, so embarrassing.
Oh my God, I would love to have seen that.
I have girlfriends, that would just come over and he's like in his t-shirt and his small shorts and they're like, oh, that's just Kurt, wandering around.
But I can kind of relate to that because same like hippie girlfriend I had.
Yeah.
We were in like Best Buy one day and like obviously she was a yoga instructor and I was like practicing every day at that time. And I feel like when you have that type of practice and you're that like in touch with your body and how you feel, you tend to notice things more often than if you don't exercise, right? I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but anyway, so we're in the Best Buy. I think we're looking at TVs or something, and both of us like without realizing it are like moving and like balancing on a leg, doing a back bend, right? And like literally the sales guy was like, are you guys okay? Dude, it was the funniest fucking shit ever. We both looked at each other and just started laughing. But so I understand why your dad may have been doing that. It's just, he was in touch with himself. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now you've got two kids. You have Charlotte, you have Cannon, and what are like, because as a parent, I never thought about this shit until I had my own kids. But it's like I've started to really think about, well, what are our core values, right? And what do we want to kind of teach and program and frame for our kids? And it's like, man, you just want to get it right. You want to, and it, it's like, I want to be the best version of myself that I could possibly be for them, and it's a really interesting feeling, and I don't think anybody that doesn't have kids can really comprehend it, but I'm sure the same has been an area of conversation for you and for Peter. So what are those things for you guys? Like, are there any super important, like, non-negotiables for your family, or just with what you're trying to teach your kids?
Yeah. Certainly for both of us, sports is huge. We were both athletes our entire lives and are still athletes today. And I think that it's always kept me out of trouble. Even today, it's like, oh, I can't drink too much tonight because I want to be at a 6 a.m. class tomorrow. Like, that just always comes first. And it just makes me a healthier person in general. So I feel like just my health is always going to be first. And I definitely want to teach that to my kids. Charlotte's now a skier. She's doing really well. Cannon, we've got them golf clubs. We were kind of just throwing them into everything. Charlotte's tried dance. She didn't like it so much. She likes skiing a lot more. But just also being outdoors, I feel like makes you a healthier person.
Like, communing with nature is I feel it's so important.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to not do it because we're in such a fast-paced culture and society now that it's hard to actually make the time to do it. You got to make the time to do it.
Yeah.
Our son is pretty stubborn. He's got a ton of energy, but there's just something that happens to him. Like, when he's barefoot in our backyard on the grass, like, he's a totally different human being. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I would agree with you. Yeah. Health is so important, and you kind of take it for granted, right? Like, it's the one thing that it's so easy to take for granted when you don't have it, or when you have health.
Yeah.
Right. But it's when you don't have it, or you get sick, or something happens, that you're like, man, it's like the most important thing. Unless you're a kid, then you like do it to play hooky and you don't want to go to school or something. So sports.
Yeah.
What else?
I mean,
Do you
just sports. No,
just
kidding.
sports? That's it. But hey, do you guys sort of, you said you kind of expose them to everything, but do you try to influence in any particular direction, right? Like, my wife is like, gosh, football, but you hear all these stories now about people getting concussions and having these traumatic brain injuries and what it does to you long term. And so she's like, God, I hope he picks golf, or I hope he picks tennis, or
Yeah.
But how do you deal with that? Like, exposing but protecting, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. So my husband thinks Cannon's gonna be the next quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs, but
As long as
I
he
would
has a
not
good right
prefer
tackle.
that. Yeah, exactly. Football scares me for sure. But they're 2-4, so we're also very in the moment. I don't know. There's a lot of parents that are like, my kid's gonna go to Valor and play football,
Right.
and this is his life, and from the second he's in the womb, we're not like that. I'm very just guide them the way I'm following their lead.
Okay.
I try to do that as much as possible. We obviously will introduce them to anything that they want to be introduced. And also what we're doing is kind of what they're doing right now, since they're so little. But yeah, I mean, I realize that as they get older, Charlotte might want to be an artist and, ski on the side or whatever. And that's fine. We just hope that we have the means, and she's, I think happiness and making sure that your kids are happy is number one, especially this day and age.
Yeah.
Social media is a crazy thing. And so that's probably our biggest fear a little bit, I would say. And just how to navigate that in the future. But just, I mean, man, I just want them to be happy and healthy. And I think that those go hand in hand, if I don't move in a day, I can already see my mental health going down. My friends with injuries, I really feel for them. I'm like, that must really be killing you.
Well, you're a phenomenal example, right?
Yeah.
Like they always say it's caught, not taught, right?
Yeah.
They're watching everything we're doing,
Yeah.
right? They're watching everything you're doing, everything Peter's doing. So I want to switch gears a little bit. You know, your husband's an entrepreneur. Well, I guess this kind of ties into maybe core values, but are there any conversations around money or anything you're trying to do to influence at this age, even your kids? Or talk to us a little bit about that with just your family. Like, do you talk about money at the dinner table?
So that's kind of just come up because we just went to the Masters and Peter got them piggy banks. And we got in a big fight because Peter wanted to like run the whole financial conversation. He's like, this is what I'm really, really good at. And it's true, he is. But I was like, oh, you save this
Saving
much.
money or
And yeah,
investing
saving
or-
money
okay.
and investing
Okay.
money. You know, he wanted to like have the whole conversation, which I think is great. So that's kind of the first time we've actually talked about real money with them besides just like, it doesn't grow on trees. You know, you can't get
Yeah.
a toy every time we go in, yada, yada. That, and then I also just think at this age for them, just like not spoiling them has been the hardest thing for us. Like,
Do you have them on
You know.
allowance?
Charlotte is getting there.
Okay.
Yeah. She has some chores now and yeah, it's $20 a week.
Okay.
Which I think is a lot. That was the first conversation. But it's fine. You know, marriage is compromised.
Yeah. You're like, look, listen, you can save it, invest it, or give it away. And if you want to give it away to me, I'm happy to go buy some jeans at Nordstrom.
Exactly. But he's good with that too, because he's like, it's not all yours either. He's trying to, like, this is what you invest, this is what you save, this is how we make money on our money, and learning that kind of at a young age.
So you guys are talking to them about investing.
He's
as
starting
well.
to talk to Charlotte about it. Yeah. I mean, our son's 2.5, so it's not really going computing.
Sure. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I don't think the dollar amount really matters. I think it, like, the one thing I heard where I'm like, oh my God, that's so genius. You know,
So you're
'cause-
agreeing with him. That's what he said. He goes, it's not the amount of money.
yeah. I mean, I would probably
Yeah.
agree. I don't think that that's way off from where,
Sure.
you know, but
Should be.
5, 10, 15, $20 a week. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think somewhere in there is probably good in terms of
Yeah.
an amount, right? But the sitting down going, here's what you can do with it, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, when you go to the store and they're like, I want that, be like, awesome. Did you bring your money with you?
Yeah.
Do you have enough to pay?
Yeah.
Then you can default to that, but you can't do that without an allowance. So
Right.
anyway, I'm curious to hear about how that goes in the future for you guys.
Me
but,
too.
Yeah. Peter's like, it should be 50.
Yeah.
All right. So I know we're kind of all over the place, but backtrack Nordstrom's and then tell us about your journey into real estate and kind of how you got excited about going into this field.
Yeah, so I worked with builders, developers, and architects for years, 12 years. So I was in the building industry for a long time. So it had always been in the back of my mind to just get my license, and I was never really sure what I wanted to do with it, to be honest. So I put my son in school and just signed up and knew that because I had tried it before in my early 20s and knew that I just like did not have the like the what's it called, self-motivation to like make myself sit down and do it all the time. So
you really
this
have to be a
second time,
self-starter.
totally.
Right?
So this second time I knew, I was like, I have the time, my son's in school, like every second I have, I'm gonna do it. So I've got my real estate license in 10 weeks and
Good for you.
I know, I was pretty proud of
I
that.
think it took me 2 years and I failed the first test.
I did fail what was it? The state portion, not the national, by 1 point. So I had to go retake that the next day, which whatever. So yeah,
God, how annoying
got
is
that.
that?
It was so annoying. And I was like, great, now I'm
1
gonna
point.
skip it by like 3 points because it's like you just pray at the end of it.
It's
basically
just
how it
pray.
goes.
I know, dude. And some of those questions are so ridiculous,
Yes,
right?
they're so ambiguous.
Like,
I'm like, it's the same freaking
like,
answer.
I'm never gonna use any of this with what I actually do. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. So, so got that. And then I had a really good friend named Andrew Abrams. He reached out to me when I posted that I had passed the exam, and he was like, you have to be on my team. And I was like, you're the perfect person for me, actually, because I have no fucking idea what I'm going to do with this. So he was just supportive in any way that I needed. There was a bunch of programs at Guide. Guide is a great real estate agency to be under. I love Brett Weinstein as well. So yeah, it was just a no-brainer for me to join their team, and did a few deals last year. And yeah.
What like, what is it that attracted you to Andrew's team? Like, and what is it you feel like you learned with that group that maybe you wouldn't have gotten from somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely just needed to be very clear that my kids come first, and that I'm not here to like make $1 million. I have it in me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what was nice. I didn't have to explain that to Andrew. He knew who I was coming onto his team. It's kind of annoying having to explain that to another real estate group who's kind of like, we want you in here every week. We want you at the meetings. We want you at this and that. And I did. I mean, I, of course, took the contracts class. Like, I took a lot of the classes that I needed to get comfortable, but I also know myself, and I know that I learn fast if I'm just thrown to the wolves. So I just started taking clients like right away, and just learning as I went, knowing that I had a really good team behind me, and knowing that Andrew was overlooking every single contract that went through, and it was nice having you have my back as well. So yeah, it was just, I built a team really fast to
Is that what gave you
have
the
my back.
confidence to just jump in and do it? Because I feel like there's two types of people, right? There's the type of person that's like, I gotta study forever to pass my test, okay? Then I'm gonna have a perfect business plan. Then and it's like they gotta understand every loan product so that they can inform their clients, right? Like, they're that type of person, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm a big fan of being prepared, but then there's the other side where it's like, yeah, but you could read the book on how to be successful all day long, but until you actually do it, it don't mean shit.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
So like, and it sounds like you just sort of jumped in because you had confidence in the team, but where do you fall on that spectrum? Are you somebody that's typically like, I'm just going to do it and that's how I'll learn, or I'm going to learn it all and then that's how I'll do it?
I'm definitely going to do it, and that's how I'll learn. I think that sitting in a classroom, I'm like a toddler. I've taken about 5 minutes of it, and then you've lost me, so I just know that by doing it, that's how I'm going to learn, because I have to, right? I think I was thrown to the wolves also in the building industry. They basically just said, just start answering phones and answering questions. And I was like, I don't even know what a window has in it. They were like, Lowy, argon. I'm just Googling the whole time. I'm like, I have no idea what these people are talking about. And that was one of the biggest lessons ever.
It's funny how like, even like, my team and I have a saying called GTS, which stands for Google that shit. Yeah. Right. But still there are times where I almost forget that we have this like endless supply of information where I can get the answers and, interesting. Okay. So has there been anything that has changed as far as like what you thought this was going to be like compared to, now you've been in it for some time, you've gone through many successful transactions. Is there anything that's different than what you expected it to be, or is it exactly like you expected it to be?
I think I went into it because, so my husband and I had bought and sold like a few different properties. So I had been through the process a little bit, and knowing that once you even say in a room of people that you're going to sell a house, it's like fucking everyone is like flies to you because everyone is a real estate agent. Everyone,
no
it's
kidding.
crazy.
Uh-huh.
So we just realized that too. Like we had best friends that we didn't go with, because we went with our other best friend.
Sure,
So just not to take anything personally.
Hmm.
I did have a few best friends that did buy and sell last year. One that's like my brother, and he didn't go with me, and it's just because his partner wasn't as, he just wanted to get it done, and he thought that this other lender had this amazing product. And I was a little bit too new. Now I would have been like, you guys are idiots. Why didn't you just give me a chance to give you the pitch? But also like, let it go. It's not worth my relationship with you. So I've also noticed that people get a little bit weird in real estate.
It's money, right? People
Yeah,
get
weird
money.
about money. Yeah.
But I think that's a huge takeaway. So like, let me just repeat, guys, what she just said, because the ability to care about not getting the client, but also the ability to say next, like
Yeah.
I'm moving forward. I think it is so important that if you're in sales or real estate, especially, you develop the ability to have that mindset. And I recall when my brain finally made the switch, because for a long time, I'm an emotional dude, man.
Yeah.
Like I don't like when people take advantage of me. I don't like when people expect something without asking, like I just get emotional about shit. And I know the value that me and my team bring to a transaction, and we do the best we possibly can communicating that value. But like when somebody works you and your team to death for months, and then at the last second, they're like, oh, I'm going to go with somebody else because they gave us 1/8% better rate. My initial instinct is, well, how could I have been better?
Yeah.
How could I have led my team better? How could I have better communicated with the client? But there are also situations where you're like, no, dude, you're just a fucking asshole. Yeah, maybe I could have done something better, but you are just a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And, but getting to a point where I have the ability now to recognize that it just is what it is, right? I can try to fix it, even if they say something like that, like, hey, what rate did you get? Can I beat it? Can I still have an opportunity to earn your business? I always like to do an exit interview to figure out like, hey, like give us some feedback. Like, hey, but now I think the best approach is just to be a good sport about it.
Yeah.
Cause you never know. Like I've had clients that, not that extreme of an example, but they went with somebody else, but I just poured into them, just kept adding value, almost like they were my client.
Yeah.
And every time those people end up coming back to me.
Yeah.
Right. So it's tricky. A little secret I've had is I type out an email to them, right? Just like cussing them out, giving them a piece of my mind, letting them know how I feel. And then I just don't send it, and then I feel better, but that's rare nowadays. But anyway, I just wanted to like stay on that for a second, because the fact that you have the ability to do that so early in your career is remarkable, and it's so underrated. Like, so anyway, just kudos to that, I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it goes into every facet of your life, honestly. The faster you can let shit go, the happier you are.
For sure.
Because it's just negative and it's just hurting you. Doesn't hurt anybody else. So just let it go.
Hey, so without like stealing his thunder or going too far into Peter's story, you're married to an entrepreneur. He has a remarkable story. Runs a very successful business. Shout out to Lifetime Windows and Siding.
Yeah.
And now he's branched into other divisions, right?
Yeah.
I think when I rolled up to the office the other day, it was like, I didn't even know they did, was it bathrooms or there's like the whole other division.
They do bathrooms, roofing, windows, siding, and doors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've been married with him and with him through a lot of this change and progression.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm just wondering, like, from your perspective, because I think, I'm not saying this isn't like a sexist thing, but it's like there are a lot of women that are in that position where they have a husband that is the breadwinner, makes a lot of money. And I'm just wondering from your perspective, like, How has that been? Like, what have some of those challenges been? Because I think sometimes if a man or a woman feels like they're the breadwinner or making all the money, it's almost like it's easy for them to hang, even if they're not doing it intentionally, there's sort of this unspoken, like, well, I make all the money. And I know just from my own experience that can create conflict in a relationship.
For sure.
So I'm just curious, like, how do you guys, work as a team, and how do you work through some of that stuff, and what's that been like for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely been a roller coaster. We used to compete a lot,
Okay.
which was our biggest problem, honestly. It was me just trying to, I took the wrong route, I would say, with it for a lot of years. He wasn't trying to compete with me. He was just like, this is what I'm doing, and why don't you come along for the ride? And I was just, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was very just like, I was extremely supportive and extremely proud of him. So I want to make that clear, but I had a hard time with it for sure. And then a few years ago, it kind of came to a head, and we got with Misty, our life coach, who's hopes and freaking dreams. Reach out to Derek if you need her contact. Yeah, she's amazing and has changed my life. So yeah, she's fantastic. So I think she just I was going into it with the mindset of, and I think a lot of people do, it's like, help my marriage, change my business, like make me find this amazing job. And instead she kind of makes you look inward. A lot of people look outward. It's Peter's fault, or it's my best friend's fault for not choosing me, or it's this or it's that. And it's always your fault. It's always on you. You can always change the circumstances. And sometimes you can't change the circumstances, but you can change you. You can look at yourself and say, does this really matter? Or, am I going to, hate my friend for not choosing me last year for the rest of his life? Or am I just going to let it go because he's amazing and those were just his circumstances at the time? He missed out because he didn't go with the best of the best, but that's okay. I'll forgive him this one time.
So that's something you learned from Misty?
Yeah.
Sort of like recognizing that that you're responsible for a lot of this, or that you have control over a lot of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can't necessarily control the thought that pops into your head or how you initially feel, but you can control how you respond to it.
Yeah.
Right. So
absolutely.
What do you think it was that caused the initial competition? Because you said, he wasn't competing, but you thought there was this competition.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's hard when someone makes that much more money than you do. For me. And I'm extremely driven and extremely independent as well. And I've always had big dreams and big goals for myself that I wanted to accomplish.
Did you resent him almost?
A little bit. Yeah, for sure.
How did you figure it out? And
I
haven't kind of thing?
Totally. Yeah. That, and just knowing that it took me a minute after we had kids to just realize that my role was actually also extremely important, if not more so.
Absolutely.
Being a mother. Sure. So that took me, that was a hard look in the mirror, basically. And she made me realize that. She was like, do you realize you're doing the most important thing you can do?
100%.
And you have the opportunity to be with them and, take them to a zoo on Friday and just do whatever I want with them, which is amazing. They're also young. So it is extremely, extremely important for me to be there with them right now.
And it's I think sounds like Misty maybe helped you guys with this, but it's when both people in the relationship can have the optic that, hey, babe, I couldn't go grow this business without you doing everything you do. And having genuine gratitude for dude, I fucking know what it is you deal with on a daily basis. And I love you. Thank you. 'Cause I couldn't fucking go do it without you. But also the other person has to have that same perspective, right?
Yeah.
And I think when you don't, that's where it gets messy.
Absolutely.
Right? But the other, it's also babe, I know I'm fucking holding the fort down with the kids, but dude, like if you weren't going and building this business, I wouldn't have the ability to be with
do
our
this.
kids. Right?
It's a team.
It's a team.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Any suggestions for people that are listening right now that are kind of in that situation? You know, I always joke about it. I think I heard this from Jim Rohn back in the day. He's like, yeah, you expect me to go out and conquer the world and be home by 5.
Yeah.
Right? And
That is what I expect.
Yeah. And if he's not,
exactly. Yeah, no, for sure.
There's like a half truth there.
He's pretty good about that. I think that we both just know that our family comes first, but I also absolutely realize that because he's doing everything that he's doing is the reason that we live the way that we do.
And that can evolve, right? But
yeah.
Now he's in a place where, you know, I mean, arguably he could need more time because he's more committed and at a higher level, but also income now is not like it probably was when he was trying to get this thing off the ground, where he was grinding it out and like, dude, I got to work, you know, 15-hour days or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So back when he was growing it, you know, what was that like?
This is what I tell everybody who is either married to an entrepreneur or someone that's going to start their own business is, hold on because it becomes like a freight train and you can't get off, you know? So it's certainly,
did you hear that?
Yeah.
I'm talking to my wife right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's certainly not easy. It's extremely hard. Extremely.
Just because of that roller coaster,
the emotions, the roller coaster, the every level I would say that you hit as a business owner is extremely different. And we're lovers and we're two emotional people. So when stuff happens, it hurts, you know? So, but we just keep moving forward knowing that we're good people. And also you let your stuff roll off your chest a lot faster, you know, cause it's happened. There's things that just happen so frequently, you know, that you kind of get thick skin. And I wish everybody the best, you know. I mean, I truly, I feel like I'm a motivator now because I have so many entrepreneurs around me and I'm their biggest freaking cheerleader. I'm like, go for it. I cannot wait. You know, the success stories, like I get the chills. I just love it. It gives me a high.
It's not hard.
No.
Okay, so and now, so tell us about like your journey with real estate and kind of where you're looking to take it, and you know, there's been a lot of changes that you've been a part of over the last year. Like, where do you see the future of your business in real estate, and where do you see the future of the industry going?
I would say, I mean, stay in it. If you're a really good real estate agent, I would say just hold on. You know, the grass isn't always greener. And I think that if you can prove to yourself that you can get through times like this, then you can get through anything. So I think that if you believe in yourself and you are doing all the right work, just keep doing it. You know, it will get better. I see my future. I would love to grow a team in the future. I definitely need people underneath me. I need people to do my social media and my content. It's like children. It takes a village. You cannot do anything by yourself. If you want to see big numbers, you need a big team.
As if real estate itself wasn't enough, now we gotta do content.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. And podcast and do everything and fit in your workout and eat healthy and get the kids to bed. And yeah.
It's nonstop.
Make sure your husband's happy always.
Yeah. That's funny. So what about the future of the industry, though? Where do you think that's going? You know, we just had this NAR settlement that happened.
Yeah.
They were, you know, basically the idea is like there's collusion and, you know, price fixing. And, like there's there's a rabbit hole we could go down on it, but
Exactly.
what are your thoughts with the whole thing, and
Uh,
what do
d-
you think? How do you think it's going to affect agents?
I think that if the media is how I feel about the media and politics and everything else. It's fear driven.
Yeah. That's how they
They're just
sell, right? That's how they make
exactly.
money.
They're trying to make you afraid of your own
Mhm.
shadow. Colorado's been doing it like this for years and years.
Mhm.
It's in our contracts already.
Oh.
So sure, there might be a little bit negotiation because now your buyers are going to be
Mhm.
asking you questions. Your sellers are going to be saying, well, can I not pay the buyer's agent? And you just have to have those conversations. But I think that they're pretty easy to have. Everyone knows that we're not doing this stuff for free. And if you're showing them the value and you're very clear with them, then it shouldn't be a problem. And then, yeah, the future of the industry, I think, is strong. I think that every industry is changing and evolving all the time. You just really have to ride the waves. Because anywhere you go, it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah, it's almost like, how can I get on board with the change? And instead of looking at it from like a, how's this going to affect me, which is a very selfish, self-centered sort of perspective, instead, how do you flip it and go, man, where's the opportunity here?
Yeah.
Right? Like my team and I are meeting about that, going, how can we help agents? Because this is going to change the landscape, no doubt.
Yeah.
They're saying about 1 million agents are going to get out of the business. And a lot of those are agents that just, they got into the industry not thinking that they actually had to be a professional salesperson, right? And that's
Yeah.
really, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business person, you're a
Yeah.
professional salesperson. And so if they can't communicate their value, I think it's going to be a little difficult for them to make money.
Yeah.
But I heard something interesting the other day. So if that's true, right? If it's going to eliminate 1 million agents out there, think about what that does for the National Association of Realtors. They just lost 1 million people paying fees,
Yeah.
right? Which I don't know what the fees are exactly, but it's millions and millions, it's hundreds of millions of dollars,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So now there are 6 states, and it might have changed since I last heard this, but there are 6 states that are changing their laws on wholesaling. Okay, so now if you're in the wholesale business, they go, wait a minute, we can't have people out there talking to, Granny, convincing her to sell the house for, $300,000 less than what it's actually worth. And then they turn around the day later and sell it to somebody else and make that 300,000, right? Like that's not fair to the consumer.
Yeah.
So we're going to make them go out and get licensed. So now these wholesalers have to go get licensed. So the first one is you got to get licensed. Okay, they got over that and they go, okay, no problem, we'll go get licensed. But then they got hit with, if you're licensed, you can't wholesale property. How do you think? And they just replaced the 1 million people that are getting out with 1 million or more people that are in a different industry that now they have the ability to collect fees from.
Yeah.
Right. I always feel like nothing meets the eye.
Yeah.
There's always something else going on.
Oh, for sure.
Like if we just think about it, look into it further, usually we can see the writing on the wall or something else that's happening.
Yeah.
Gosh, we covered a lot. What do you think about, so the Fed met yesterday. They just talked about not raising rates because of inflation. We saw a pretty dramatic improvement in the market as a result, just in the last day with rates. But what would you say to the person that's listening to this that's like, I guess it's a 2-part question. One is they're thinking, man, should I go into real estate? Right? I heard you can do really well. I heard you have freedom and flexibility. I also know it can be difficult, but what would you say to the person that's thinking about going into real estate? And what would you say to the person listening to this that's like, man, should I be buying right now with rates as high as they are?
Yeah. So for the realtors out there or the people that are thinking of getting into real estate, I would say look at your network and your circle and then look further than that, because it's not going to be your friends and family, or maybe it is and you're extremely lucky, but how are you going to get business is huge. And you got to get extremely creative. Who are the business owners that you know that you can filter down to? Who are the just who's your sphere and who's your circle, because they always say work your sphere, which I kind of think is bullshit. I think that you need to really put yourself out there and start going to every single event that you're invited to, and just, do you have the time and the energy, and what are you doing it for? Are you doing it, because I was kind of doing it just as like a supplemental thing to kind of prove to myself that I could. So I really loved that, and I just didn't overthink it too much, I guess. If you're doing it because you really got to make money and you're feeding mouths and all of that, just how much time and energy are you willing to put into it? Because you're going to be working 80, 90 hours to be extremely successful. It'll go down from there, obviously, once you do have a good network and you've built a team. But at first, you're going to grind like a lot. So
just be ready for that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I think being an entrepreneur has become kind of popular.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, but I wish more people would talk about how fucking difficult it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, it really is challenging. There will be times where it'll take everything you got just to stay on the path.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's really good advice. I like that.
Yeah.
And then what about people that are like, man, I just don't know what to do. I know I should probably buy something, but you know, God, rates are so high. What do you say to those people?
The rates have been higher historically. Also, you know, when the rates are up, the home prices are down a little bit. Denver's market's different. We raised our home prices, even though our rates are up a little bit, but that also proves that our market's different than every other market out there. You know, the U.S. News just posted that we are the #1 market in the U.S. So if you can afford to buy property out here, it's a good idea. You're not going to lose your money.
For sure.
Yeah. So I encourage you to go for it. I don't think that the rates are that high in my head. But for those of you that have a house that you bought, which I of course run into a lot at like 2.5 to 3% interest, that's good for you and that's amazing. If you need to sell it to move on, I think that you'll still be happier, or you can obviously just rent it. And you can get a lot of rental income right now, and move to the house. You know, if you need to get out because you're having kids or you need to get to a better area, I'm always about mental health. So, you know, just do it. It's, you know, you're still going to build equity in your new home, if not probably more. So either way, I don't think that you're losing money. And I think that you're always, the time to buy is when you need to buy, I feel.
Well, it goes back to what you were saying about the media selling fear, right?
Yeah.
So it's like everything that we're sort of hearing and feeling is rates are high, rates are high, rates are high.
Yeah.
Really the exact opposite, right?
Yeah.
Because the second rates go back down, now there's a flood of people in the market that with the same amount of property, there's not any more property. So it's back to super competitive offers. And we're already seeing it. That's just going to drive home prices up. Yeah. It'll be interesting. I think like over the next 5 years, it's going to be, unfortunately, I think it's going to be more of like the haves, have nots. I just think like, so if you're sitting here listening to this and you're like, should I buy, should I not buy? And you don't own property, like get in touch with me and my team, get in touch with Lara, get somebody that can give you a perspective that maybe you haven't thought of, or that's different than the fucking nightly news, right? So anyway, well, it was awesome having you here. Guys, I told her that I would dress up in a full leather suit next time she comes back onto the show, so you'll have to hold me to it. Yeah, leather only. God, for some reason I thought about that scene in what was the one with Bruce Willis, Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction. Remember the dude that's like in the leather with the little S&M ball in his mouth? I don't know. I thought of that guy for some reason. little glimpse into my mind, guys. No. You look fabulous. You look great. But seriously, thank you for coming on. You know, I appreciate you so much. And this was fun.
Thank you. So, it was great.
Where can people find you, by the way?
I'm at Miss Svedin, Svedin on Instagram. I'm Lara, Lara Svedin on Facebook. And
good.
And
Good.
that's it.
Do you want to make an announcement? Are you going to be maybe?
I am going to be starting a podcast. We aren't 100% on the name yet, but it's going to be about CEOs and a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about now, just kind of delving into the nitty gritty of people in business and how it's just really, really not easy. So hearing their stories and trying to encourage those out there, definitely not to discourage, definitely encourage people to do it. If they have a good idea, freaking go for it, because it's going to be tough, but it always pays off in the end.
So guys, she'll do updates as she gets closer to launching the show, and hopefully you come back.
Yeah. I'm doing the podcast with Callie Bedolis.
Callie Bedolis.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Callie Bedolis. So you'll announce it on Instagram
From On Vogue.
and Facebook
Yeah.
as you get closer.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
So
thank you so much.
follow me and I'll let you know.
All right.
Turn that loss to a check. Every time that I see a limit, I push right past it. Don't care if you got here first, the one to win is the last one standing. Say my life is like luck, nah, I had to plan it. The way I work is out of this earth.